Fostering connection through authenticity, the People Pleaser podcast validates struggles, celebrates growth, and inspires positive change.
Together, let's embrace vulnerability, challenge patterns, and evolve with compassion.
Hello, everybody. Welcome
Hello.
to the People Pleaser podcast. It's Corey.
And Cindy.
We are here today to talk about something that is actually Cindy's idea, full credit, bringing in three seemingly separate problems. And that's kind of how I saw it before we started planning and brainstorming this episode. But they're actually all connected. So those three traits or three tendencies, three behaviors of perfectionism, procrastination, and imposter syndrome. And when I hear those things, I'm like, yep.
Check.
Me. And so, yeah, as we've sort of explored this topic, we are beginning to really see that these are not necessarily three separate problems, but they can actually be three different expressions to an underlying fear-based cycle. So we are just going to kind of like unpack these three concepts, these three ideas, these three behavior patterns, and speak from our own experiences, but just also speak to them kind of more broadly as this fear-based cycle. So yeah, that's the launch pad for us today.
Yeah, so if you're wondering what these might look like, is perfectionism could look like I have to do this exceptionally well in order to be safe, worthy, successful, or acceptable. Imposter syndrome could be I am not actually capable, and eventually people will find out. So a feeling of being exposed. And procrastination could be this task feels threatening or overwhelming, so I need to get away from it. So an avoidance, really, of it. And often I would say that, perfectionism and the imposter syndrome might eventually lead to the procrastination. Because you're avoiding that fear and feeling uncomfortable, so you're just going to put it off.
Yeah.
Not effectively, because it brings on all sorts of other feelings like guilt and shame and stress and anxiety. But in the moment, you're trying to avoid often those first two.
Yeah, like perfectionism to me and imposter syndrome almost feel performative. Like that's that real like outward facing, like putting yourself out there for others to experience and really trying to like put your best foot forward. The perfectionism is like oftentimes for me, like that intent of like, I want to do really well, be a high achiever, be perceived well. And then the imposter syndrome is kind of those anxious underlying thoughts of like, I'm striving in a way, but like, is it real? Like, am I convincing people that I'm actually good enough or competent? I'm definitely feeling that right now in my practicum, where it feels like I'm literally going in and pretending to be a therapist, but I'm actually a therapist. Like I'm actually, if you were to ask my clients, they'd be like, yeah, Corey is my therapist. But there's just those residual feelings of like, this is new, this is scary. How did I get here?
Yes.
So it's a lot to kind of face. And then when the perfectionism feels unattainable and the imposter syndrome just begins to really wear you down, I can really see how procrastination is sort of that follow-up of like, okay, like let's avoid those feelings completely, kind of like what you just said, Cindy.
Yeah, and the word that comes up for me in both perfectionism and imposter is exposure. Like you're feeling exposed in that moment.
Totally.
And what I always feel quite ironic is, in my journey kind of dealing with these things, is it's typically people that are quite high achievers in the first place that are then feeling like imposters and put this sense of perfectionism, right? It's not someone that like has no ability, no skills whatsoever that struggles with perfectionism and imposter syndrome. You're already kind of achieving at a certain level, but the expectation is just so high. And I also feel like it's rooted in false narratives you had as a child, right? Like a lot that you weren't good enough, or the expectation. Like for myself, my father was a perfectionist. The expectations were so high. So I kind of grew up with this feeling of it was never enough.
Right. The bar was, you couldn't see the bar.
No. And I internalized that, right? So I then put those expectations on myself. And the funny thing is that is 100% subconscious, because I don't actually feel like intellectually, I don't feel that I have to achieve that level at all. You know, I'm quite happy with being a little more middle of the road and not always raising the bar and having to be higher. So it's definitely a subconscious kind of programming, but I do feel it's people that are already achieving at a certain level that struggle with that.
I really noticed perfectionism, my perfectionism flare up when I was in my undergrad. All throughout high school, all throughout my like early academic life, I was a C student. And I had many conversations with teachers and my parents around my very mediocre grades. And I wasn't going to school for academics. I was going there for friends, for community, for belonging. And that was the purpose. And I was friends with people of all grade, like all academic performances. It was
all groups.
Did you go to Vic High?
No,
okay.
I went to Mount Doug. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Vic High, the high school I went to in Victoria, was never known for its academics. It was more of the fine arts school. And I really liked that about it. It was like, you know what? I don't have to be anything other than who I am and what I am. And I still applied myself. Like I still took school seriously. But when I entered university, I actually took several years between high school graduation and enrolling in my undergrad. So I was considered a mature student at that time. And so not only was I a lot older than a lot of my peers, but I had been like out of the game for a while. And I was facing like, oh God, I'm back to this like world of academia where things are like, you're literally graded, you're literally rated and analyzed in that kind of pass fail mentality. And I remember just kind of like stumbling in and being like, okay, like, let's see what I come up with. Like, let's see what I can create here. And my first few papers were sort of in that like B, C, whatever. And I was passing, like I knew that the average to pass was a C plus, and I was able to do that. But then what was really new to me in this environment is that everybody would share their grades. Everybody was talking about like, what did you get on this paper? What did you get on this paper? And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, holy shit. Like everybody here is like an A plus, straight A type standard. And now all of a sudden that's what I needed to feel like I belonged. Like, and so that's really too where my imposter syndrome started to flare up. Like, what am I, this C student, doing here amongst all these straight A students? And for me, that's still that core need was belonging. And I kind of latched on to perfectionism as a way to belong amongst my peers and to feel accepted, which was just like a lot for my nervous system. And it really, really accelerated my anxiety and my levels of stress.
Yeah, I would say that I felt the same shift from high school to university as well. And same thing, in high school, it was about belonging, community, social. Yeah. And in university, all of a sudden grades became so important.
Yeah.
Same reasons, right? That's how you were evaluated in university. It was no longer about social or friendships so it was a completely different environment. And I can say immediately put somewhat, I don't know if unrealistic's the right word, but high level standards and expectations on myself, and the anxiety and stress that came with that. And actually I think that a large level, it affected my enjoyment of the process too. I often struggled with just being in the moment and actually just really enjoying the classes because I was so concerned about grades and getting all the information and, even note taking. Like it just became, there was a lot of anxiety in it about doing it right, getting the grades rather than, high school was hard in some ways, but there was still an enjoyable quality because it was so, for me, about social and connection and community, which I loved.
Yeah.
So, and I do love learning. I love university, but definitely parts of it have been robbed, I feel, because of that perfectionism and
just
everything
those
attached
really,
to it.
and it's still sort of those unattainable, if you think about your nervous system, unattainable expectations. We're just we're really celebrated for our perfectionism in those types of environments.
Well, and I would say that in university is that's probably where I developed procrastination. That's probably really where it started presenting itself. So,
I can relate to that.
My fear, my drive for perfectionism and my imposter syndrome were so high level that my procrastination just came out in full bloom. So I never, and I've been to university many times over the last 40 years. I have never handed in a paper prior to the deadline. And I am talking about editing at 11:55 and hitting send, right?
Yeah.
And it was all absolutely 100% to do with perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and that it wouldn't be what it was supposed to be. I wouldn't get the grade. The problem was, and I don't know if you and I have talked about this before, is that I always did well in that pattern. Yes. So like you're saying, people pleasing, we get affirmed for it. Perfectionism, we get affirmed for it. I also got affirmed in this way because I got good grades. And then the lie I told myself was that I couldn't get good grades unless I put myself under
that duress,
that pressure.
Yeah.
So I just kept up the cycle.
I used to literally say, because I would do the exact same thing. I would leave things till the 11th hour, to the very last minute, and I would say I am everything is showing me that I can do this, and I would say I just want to fail something. I want to get an F on one of these papers so that it doesn't continuously perpetuate that messaging that this is working for me. It's working for me in the way that I'm getting a good grade, I'm getting the paper on time, all those things. But was it actually working for me? Probably not. Probably not from a nervous system perspective. It was totally haywire within my system.
This last time I went back to university during COVID, I crashed out in one of my courses. It was just the kids were really struggling during COVID, and it just became too much. And it came to the end, and my prof said, you're passing the course. If you choose to, you can not write the final and you're still going to pass. Yeah. I got a C+. Or you can write the final and, probably get a B and I actually took the C+. That was
C's to get degrees.
Well, you and I've said that to each other so many times, right? And here we are killing ourselves, and our friends that are getting by with C+ are totally happy and have the same degree.
Yeah. I haven't ever really known what my classmates now in my master's, what their grades are, but I have a feeling a lot of us are just trying to get through it.
And that might be maturity too, right? Yeah. Most of them are also doing life with the degree. It's not a sole focus.
Totally.
And I think we just get to that point where we realize this is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And so obviously we're using school because that's such a clear performative type environment where we really are encouraged to be perfect or, perform in a certain way. And I think that when it comes to workload, that's a very classic example of things that we would want to procrastinate on. And especially too, in careers, I think that's where our imposter syndrome can really flare up. These are things that can really show up across across the human experience in many different ways. You may be in certain relationships with certain people that like you notice like that there's a little bit of imposter syndrome or, certain things in your life that you, that feel like obligations and that feel like, I don't really want to do this, so I'm going to procrastinate. So there's just a full spectrum of these, experiences throughout our life.
I think motherhood is another one that the perfectionism, and if you have people pleasing and perfectionism, that it comes up because especially with social media, just like this perfect way you're supposed to do such an imperfect journey.
Yeah.
That, and feeling inadequate and seeing what you see online and thinking you're not measuring up and then an imposter because, people might say, guilt. Oh, you're such a good mom, but oh no, I'm not. Cause mom guilt. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So what is it that we're trying to avoid with those? What are the things that those are serving for us and the feelings we're trying to avoid in that? So definitely failure, judgment.
Yeah. The fear of rejection. And I think this, something that can kind of come up a lot is shame, feeling that you should have done something better or could have done something better. Shame is like just such a yucky feeling that I think we will go to great lengths to try to avoid. Yeah,
for sure. Guilt too, I think.
Yeah, those two kind of go hand in hand.
And I think too, I think so much of this is rooted in the lies we've believed about ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So discovering that we're not as capable as but that's our lie. Like we actually are that capable and they see us as we are, but our subconscious is telling us that no, that's not actually us. Even though we are doing those things, we're achieving those things, but somehow we still, oh no, it's not real. Right. The imposter syndrome is a pretty powerful lie based in a pretty powerful lie.
And and a lot of it, I know I already said this, but a lot of it is that outward, like us as something for others to consume and interpret. And I think that a lot of the time it's these expectations we put on ourselves that isn't necessarily what we want for ourselves or what we're even capable of or what we're even, but it's this kind of like, but what we should be doing, how we hope to be perceived, how we, kind of rely on like other people's interpretation of our own internal experience.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I think there's, if we bring in the nervous system regulation piece too. So I also know that all of these served a purpose for me in perpetuating that nervous system cycle and stress, right? So my state of normal was a highly charged nervous system. And we inherently try and reach some type of psychological, physiological homeostasis all the times, right? But if you have trauma and a dysregulated nervous system, chaos and stress is your baseline. So we often do things that perpetuate
that come back to that
perpetuate that state, right? And an example of this is my children. Two of my children really struggled with anxiety and mental health and had a very chaotic inward state, physiological state. And in turn, they always had to have their external state be in chaos too. So what I struggled with in the beginning is thinking of as, oh, they're just lazy. They don't clean up after themselves. I grew to realize that they were trying to create an external environment that matched their internal state, or they felt out of alignment. So my daughter would say, Mom, I don't feel good when my room's clean. And she really didn't. Like, she really didn't does not like her space clean. And she's just coming out of that now as an adult. But she was trying to get an equilibrium, a homeostasis between her external and internal feelings, right?
That congruency.
Totally. So when you have a dysregulated nervous system, you will often subconsciously create stress-inducing chaotic environments so that you can feel that homeostasis, even though it's not where you want to be and it's not a healthy state, but you're trying to create balance. You're trying to create equilibrium between the two worlds.
Yeah. It's interesting because I almost feel like I've approached it the opposite way, in that when my internal world, I almost see perfectionism as a coping skill.
Yeah.
Whereas when my internal world feels chaotic, how would I even say that? Sometimes it's like, no, it's more like when my external world is chaotic, I then try to control my internal world. But I guess there still is that level of chaos, because it's this level of like needing to control, needing to harness, needing to like manage. And for me, that feels like a coping skill that's kind of gone to an extreme place of like total control, like needing to be perfect, needing to have these high standards, high expectations, this perfect tight place.
Well, and I would say ask too, like that might be externally what you're thinking is happening, but what is that perfectionism actually doing internally, right? We're actually creating more stress. You know what I mean? So like we're
Totally.
doing an external act of trying to manage our environment, but it's actually creating the exact stress we're trying to avoid, right? It's like when we talk about these three things, when you operate under perfectionism, imposter syndrome, they all have an element of control, but they all have the exact opposite outcome of what intellectually we think they're doing. Internally, they're actually creating more stress, more feelings of shame, more feelings of guilt, all of those things, right? So I think often we do something externally that we think is helping manage.
Yeah.
But we're subconsciously, it's actually doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's creating that nervous system dysregulation, chaos, stress, and anxiety.
So what do we think that perfectionism is actually promising us? Like, why do we lean into it? And what are we thinking it's going to give us? And then what does it actually deliver?
I feel that it's heavily, like you just said, rooted in control, like trying to gain a sense of control over your life. I think it comes from walking under a false story. Somewhere along the line, we've believed that we're not good enough, that, if we just try harder and manage it and control it more. And I think the control comes from not wanting to feel the discomfort of feeling not good enough.
Out of control. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And
then
when we
with
feel
that
not good enough, it's usually because we are trying to be good enough for someone else who isn't actually saying to be good enough means you need to be like this. Like there's no real way to ever know like where the bar is or what the expectation is, because a lot of it is our interpretation of that external force.
Yes, and I wonder how closely tied that is to the message we receive as people pleasers, is that you're so good. So the feeling of not good enough,
terrifying,
could be totally terrifying, even at a greater extent, because that's kind of what we've now attached our personality and identity to. So feeling not good enough in any way. That's why I said earlier that I feel they're so closely related. You are a high achiever, overdoer, I think, in the first place, to be dealing with perfectionism and imposter syndrome. They kind of self-create the situations. And I think also, like perfectionism, some of the questions would be, where did we learn that good wasn't enough? Like, why do we need A's and B's? Why isn't a C plus and a B and just actually enjoying the journey and learning good enough?
Well, no, and it's pretty amazing even like to use the A's and B's as an example. Like if you were to read on like most, rubrics or assignment descriptions, like the what constitutes a C or what constitutes a C plus, you read the words, like you read the qualitative part of what that, and it's like you're doing pretty good.
Yep.
You're doing great. There's some room for improvement, but like as a human, wouldn't that be a nice place to land on? Is like, you're doing pretty good. There's always going to be some learning. There's always going to be, you know, maybe some blind spots where you know, things you hadn't considered but overall, yeah. And like, to me, that's like, oh my God, that is just like, all of a sudden my shoulders can relax and I take a deep breath, because the A's feel like I'm striving for something that doesn't even really serve me. Like, in what realistic place is being perfect at something even the real expectation, or the real, like, that doesn't, to me, build connection and humanity and ease and, you know, all these things that I'm like, those are the things that I want to move closer towards.
Well, and how does it change your life? Like, how does an A change your life from a C+? Like, what huge impact does that have on your life moving forward? And the other thing is, too, is I often think about this. Where along the way did we learn to equate a so-called mistake or lesson as a failure? And why is a failure bad? Because our greatest learning moments are our failures and mistakes.
Yes.
And if you were to talk to most highly successful people, they made thousands of mistakes, but they never viewed them as a, quote, mistake. They viewed them as opportunity. They viewed them as learning experiences. They took that information, synthesized it, and made a new path forward. Versus that, oh, I made a mistake, we shut down, we turn inward. It's like, you know, a wound to our ego, you know, paralyzes us, we give up. Like, I don't think that... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I totally interrupted you. But no. I recently heard someone reframe that as like your Hollywood movie moment. Like that kind of like that pivotal moment where it's like you failed at something, you know, you made a mistake. There was that loss, that big, you know, negative type moment where you really think, okay, this is my rock bottom. This is the worst possible outcome. And yet that's just like the middle of the movie. Yeah. And then there's that journey like out of that and that learning. And I mean, I think you and I have both kind of said like, we've learned everything the hard way. Like we've learned our most valuable lessons through like, you know,
100%.
digging ourselves out of a hole or getting out of the muck and, just gaining that perspective and like, I don't know how to learn any other way. I don't know how to grow any other way without kind of that reflection and that new perspective of like, okay, so that's what happens when you do it that way.
And how have we managed to turn it into a negative? You know what I mean? Like that is how we learn and grow. So why is it bad? Why are we fearful? Why will we do anything possible to avoid those experiences, right? And the other thing that this kind of brings up for me is that like how we see it as a negative is highly personal. And when I'm talking about successful people, how they view it as very situational or external, I feel that's the same way with perfectionism, procrastination, imposter syndrome, because my experience of how I've perceived in the world is completely opposite to how I perceive myself. Yeah. I've never been given feedback that is in line with how I criticize myself and the things I think. So
that's so
where is the ego or the personal and the external world, right? It just shows how internal and subconscious this all is, because none of the things I struggle with or feel are the feedback I get from the people I'm interacting with and experiencing, sharing the world with.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really easy for us to attach to, I am a procrastinator, I have imposter syndrome, I am this is me, this is now like an identity, and not just seeing it as that learning opportunity, that moment in time, that this is just what's happening right now, but this doesn't have to define who I am. I don't have to build a whole narrative around this mistake or that, you know, whatever that moment is. I think it's really easy especially when there's challenges around like self-esteem and confidence to feel like this defines me. But then we wouldn't do the same for like a good moment, a positive moment, a success. It's like, I think there are people with those mindsets of like, no, this success defines me. This positive feedback defines me. I don't know. I think I had a review recently, like at the end of the year, and it was all positive. And I was like, okay, give me the real review. It's like I was disbelieving that for the whole year that I'd worked in that position, there wasn't like any negative feedback. It was all like growth oriented and like, keep doing that or do more of that kind of thing. But there was not that, like, I was waiting for like the pin to drop. Like, okay, now let's get to the real feedback.
And I think that's part of the power, like, of that trauma fear-based response, right? Is the positive and the successes are so short-lived.
I know.
But we ruminate in the struggles and the challenges and the shortcoming and the shame, right? I think it goes back to the fear basis of all of this, and like ultimately all of these negative or challenging aspects of ourself are rooted in trying to provide safety, trying to not feel that discomfort, seeking approval or control or protecting ourselves, right, from any perceived criticism or anything that's going to further make us feel unsafe, exposed. And
it's like that stress tolerance.
Yeah, but it's so false because it actually just perpetuates it. We actually give it to ourselves instead of it even coming from other people. It, when I procrastinate, the level that I beat myself up and ruminate it, like I don't procrastinate and not think about it until I do the task. I'm thinking about it the whole time, beating myself up, stressing, not sleeping because I know this thing is sitting there and the window's getting shorter and shorter to do it. Right. So
it's like, you're not even really it's like the procrastinating is it's a punishment.
It's torture.
Yeah.
It's literally torture, but I do it to myself all the time. And like you said, the narrative is we're avoiding that uncomfortable, but it's so false. That's not at all what we're doing. We're like magnifying it and expanding it tenfold. So it's just, emotionally it's has the exact counterintuitive response that you're seeking by procrastinating in the first place. And in the body, you become so restricted and, as you're feeling all those things, you're just like literally closing in on yourself and the tension you're feeling everywhere and the self-judgment. And it's just, there's nothing positive about it. That's, like when I...
Oh, yeah. I just was going to say, lately my procrastination has felt like, I don't know, I have a long history of self-abandoning. And right now I've noticed where my procrastination really kind of flares up is when I have a task or a responsibility that is in the like caregiving variety. And I mean, I am like gearing up to have a career. I already am in a career of caregiving and providing emotional support. And I'm now doing my master's to do more of that. And I'm noticing that I have this connotation that if I am taking care of someone else and responding to someone else's needs, that means I am not taking care of myself and I am self-abandoning. And so I notice right now, especially as I'm in this sort of this period of like really trying to change some of my patterns and really trying to like heal and nurture myself and just like give myself what I need, there's some resistance to, like, for example, I had my practicum on Wednesday and I had the whole morning to myself to kind of take care of myself. But there was this looming responsibility that I had to go and I had to meet with 6 different clients that evening. Yeah. And it's not that I could actually procrastinate like in that situation, but there was something in me that kept wanting to put it off and avoid. It was a very like avoidant pattern where I was like, trying to think of like, what excuses do I have in my, you know, in my tool belt? Like what, and that to me is an experience of like pushing away the things that feel like there's a sacrifice. There's like a self-sacrifice. There's like a self-abandonment that, it's like, how do I stay connected to myself in these things that are challenging, that require effort and energy, that require, you know, temporarily putting myself over here. I'm still there. I can still take care of myself and attend to that task at hand.
That in itself is actually growth, because before you wouldn't have even identified feeling that way, right? And
totally.
I think the resistance is actually not wanting to step in to old patterns.
Yes.
And I know for me, with my training, the huge release in that area came from understanding and embodying the idea of co-regulation. So I am there to help you regulate. It is not my job to fix you. It is not you have everything in you. You have all the wisdom, all the knowledge. Yeah. You are 100% capable of fixing this for yourself. I am there to witness and to help you co-regulate your nervous system and your body while you take that journey, right? So that really has enabled me to step back from the fixing. And with that has also come the realization that my desire for your life journey might not be your life journey. Really, that is that it's your individual.
There's some detachment.
It's kind of predetermined, and the universe has a plan, or God, or whoever you believe in has a life path for you. And who am I to exact my wishes and my demands? You know, I can want good things for you, and I want good things for every human, but I'm not responsible for it. And I really had to also embrace that with my children.
Yeah.
Because parenting my children with their needs was such an absolutely 24/7 immersive requirement that transitioning into adulthood was very difficult, because, you know, there's a lot of risk with that release. And I really embodied that belief that I am not in control of their life as an adult. I am not in control of their journey. I can want different things that might not manifest for them, and it might not be what they want. And, you know, just that release. And I think with our clients, it's the same thing. We can want the best for them. It's not our job to make it happen for them. One, that's not healing, and that's not growth.
Yeah.
Two, that's people pleasing and control, and, you know, exacting our wishes and demands upon them, and actually impeding their personal journey.
Right. And if you can imagine getting ready to go in and be like, okay, I am responsible for changing this person's life and being the most powerful force, and like, yeah, that would feel really overwhelming and really daunting and unachievable. And that would certainly lead to some procrastination, because it's like, how the hell am I going to do that? I don't have enough in the tank for that. And as you were talking, I was like imagining wearing this like big responsibility, like trench coat, and like taking that off and hanging it up. Okay. Like the responsibility trench coat is off, and like, I am here. And yeah, I used to do that like in so many different ways, but it would also just be, you know, I wouldn't go pee in between clients. I'd like hold my bladder and like be super uncomfortable, or I wouldn't pack enough food, and I wouldn't be able to like nourish myself in between sessions. I wouldn't, you know, like I actually have enough time to like go stand in the sun and just be like, okay, and
take 5 breaths.
Here I am. Yeah. Like, I am here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are definitely changes happening. And for me, the biggest piece of that is my awareness around the discomfort of like, I don't like these feelings anymore. What about for you and imposter syndrome? How has that shown up in your life?
Oh, I would say that is probably my biggest area of challenge. I will say that just stepping into this podcast with you has actually been my biggest tool. And I probably wouldn't even have been able to do this a year or two ago. And I kind of just, I didn't feel like I was making a lot of headway in like putting it at bay or overcoming it or, you know, not something that wasn't rearing its head. And I kind of just got to this point where it was like, F it, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to do it anyways. I'm just going to keep taking steps forward. I'm kind of in that plod method around it, right? I'm just going to keep taking the steps forward. And with each step I take, that's actually what I realized was it was only through working through it and not letting it disable me that it was going to fall away. I was not able to make it fall away and then take the steps forward. So I'm taking the steps regardless, if that makes sense.
Oh my God, that makes perfect sense. And I heard yesterday on a podcast I was listening to, action first, confidence second.
Yeah.
We often think that we need the confidence first to then do the action, but exactly what you're describing, no, the action lends to the confidence.
Well, I think that goes back to the failures too, right? Like you make a failure and you realize the world doesn't explode. Oh, it wasn't bad. This is what I learned. Let's move forward, right?
Yeah.
So I fully believe the action. I believe that in all areas of life though. Like I've even have a long-standing things where, you know, my friends are like, oh, I'm just praying or hoping for my partner to come or whatever. I'm like, well, those things take action. Like you have to be putting yourself out there. Yeah. So I kind of live by that philosophy in all areas, but I had become very crippled in anything that was around personal achievements and believing that. And I would say that through just taking the steps forward, it is definitely, I spend way less time thinking those thoughts than I ever have in my whole life.
Yeah, you're too busy taking action.
Totally. There's not even space for it, right? Yeah. And I mean, the odd time I'll do something and then you get that like, you know, waiting for the response of the world to crash in, and it doesn't. Yeah. And then you just keep moving forward, I guess.
Yeah. And I think for me, like imposter syndrome really flares up at the brink of a change or at the brink of something new, and thinking that I am not deserving. Like I don't, there's no place for me at this table. Yeah. To think that there are people who can do this thing and people who cannot. And I just default to I probably can't, like I probably don't belong here. For me, it really always does come back to like feeling like I belong. And even like you were just sort of describing, like, belonging requires action. Like you can't just show up and belong. You have to put some work behind that. Like there has to be some effort, some action. And yeah, I think that imposter syndrome can look a number of different ways. It can be discounting your success. So you can be like, you know, oh yeah, I have a master's, but like whatever, it's not a PhD. Yeah, totally. Often like chalking your achievements up to luck, like, you know, not really acknowledging the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears that you really committed to that achievement. Always moving your goalposts, like always being like, yes, okay, I got here, but now I need to go here. And you don't take that moment to just really embrace like, oh my God, I fucking got here. Like I'm here. And just that present, like being embodied in that success or in that opportunity, that place that you've landed.
I think that constant pursuit is definitely like you've always got to attain something higher. And I think that's also really coupled with an inability to acknowledge that everybody started at a learning point, right? Like I feel with me, I have to be the expert. I have to know as much as I can. Like I get held back if I'm going to be put in a situation where I might not know the answer or that's so unrealistic. And it also stops you from learning new things because I have to start at learning, which I actually love learning. So that's not a problem. My problem has been really stepping into things fully. And again, fear, exposure, not knowing something. Like, so what if someone asks me a question I don't know? I'm not sure, but I'm going to get back to you on that.
Well, and I also have become extremely aware that we don't actually get to see a lot of people's beginnings.
No.
We don't get to see the failures and the fumbles and the shaky voice and the making mistakes. We don't. the world is so curated now, and we get to see people at their peak, at their prime, at long after they've put in all of the messy work. And I think, that this podcast is something that I'm really proud of, the time and space that we are giving it. I mean, I was doing this for 2 years, just kind of, seeing what happens, seeing what sticks. And, the thing that really stuck was that I wanted to keep coming back to it. I can listen back to, early episodes. I can look at early social media things, and we're still in the early days. Like that's the thing. This is still so new for us as a partnership that, like I'm so proud that we are like putting out episodes, and we're just trusting the process. Like, I think this is like a very, in real time, facing some of that imposter syndrome. Like, we don't have to be charting on Spotify and be having like celebrity guests and like have ads and all these things. It's like, no, this is our beginning. This is our very real human beginning.
Yeah, I also see that tying into what we were talking about earlier about, we grew up with certain belief systems about what it took and what you had to do in achievement and academia and all that. And there's been this like giant shift, right? Our financial scarcity, because you have to do it in this certain way. And you and I, before the show, were talking about, now with online and all that stuff, there's just a million ways to earn an income that aren't 40-hour days. And our generation is having a hard time, like, actually getting our head around the fact that we don't have to work 40 hours, 50 weeks of the year. But that also comes around, like I see it all the time in the creation space. Everyone that is that is like teaching it or whatever is just start. You're going to make mistakes. Make the mistakes as you go. That's a very hard concept for our generation, right? And especially if you're dealing with perfectionism and all of that stuff, it's like, no, it's got to be perfect.
Because I need to be accepted.
Yeah, but all the things that keeps us from doing. And the thing that always catches me is I see people just doing stuff nowadays, starting businesses, doing podcasts, doing all these things. And they're just doing it, like literally leaping in, not worrying that it all has to be perfect, figuring it out as they go, and enjoying the journey. Right? Which is, I think, a lot of what our we didn't, like, that wasn't it, right? It was achievement. It was always like reach the goal, end product. We weren't raised to really enjoy the journey of getting there. Right.
I used to, not used to, let's be honest. I'm still very like, I will find something that I'm into and I will just do it. So for right now, I'm beading.
Necklaces?
I'm making necklaces. I am really into beading. And for me, that's been just a really nice, mindless, fulfilling, joy-filled activity that doesn't really mean anything more than that. However,
it does, because it's being creative, which is huge. No, I know what you're saying.
But it's really just for me.
Totally.
And it's something that I enjoy doing. And I've been sharing it on social media, and I've been getting people commenting and liking and asking if they can buy one, which is really cool. And we went to a market, and Brian was like, "Oh, my wife's been making these necklaces. Like, would you consider selling them?" And she was like, "Totally." And I just really am very aware that this is just one of the many things that I will do and have done. And it's not, I'm not attached to like permanency. Like, it doesn't need to become my identity. And that's a huge shift for me, because I have perpetually been like, and this is the way I'm reinventing myself. And this is the new thing that I'm doing. And this is my new identity. And I started to develop a lot of insecurity in that, because I thought that it showed that I couldn't make up my mind, that I couldn't commit to something, that I never took things to that expert level. And I don't remember exactly what I shared on social media one day, but I basically shared like some insecurity around the fact that I'm always switching it up.
Yes,
I'm always into something new. I'm always, I've had thrift shops and workout things and all, whatever, like all the different things. And I had a friend who I've actually never met in person. We've only ever been internet friends. She says, I love that about you.
Totally.
I love that you just go balls to the wall. You put yourself out there. You dive headfirst into something and you share it. You share it with the world. And I think, what she was really speaking to is also the fact that, like, I'm not trying to be perfect. Yeah. I'm not trying to say that, this is who I am. And but I actually am saying, like, this is who I am. I'm saying I'm someone who tries new things and gets really into them and then gets into something totally different. And that I have a lot of different ideas and a lot of different creative expressions. And so that's something that I've always really tried to keep in mind, is that something that I was deeming as like a failure was actually being received as a success and as something to be proud of. And that was helpful for her to see.
I have had the exact same experience over the last few months. So I, so driven by this, like, have to be perfect, have to know everything. That's actually not my core personality type. Mm-hmm. What I have embraced, exactly what you're describing, we're creatives. Mm-hmm. So I'm never going to be the painter. I'm never going to be the potter. I'm never going to be an expert in one thing, because I'm not an artist. I'm a creative. So I want to try it all. And I'll go balls to the walls on whatever thing I'm doing, but then I'm bored of that and I want to try this new thing, right? I actually am at the point right now where I love that about myself. Well, and I'm going to step into it and honor it moving forward. Like, that's kind of like my new life path right now, is fully embracing that. Because imagine you just
kept painting and painting and painting because you're like, I have to be this painter. That to me just defeats the total purpose of that creative outlet or that expression.
It's also where I have self-abandoned and self-punished. I have deprived that that part of myself. Always. It's always the first part to drop off. It's always the part that I almost intentionally, like, punish myself by not making room for. And every time I kind of hit like a rock bottom feeling, that is the first realization always to come to the surface, is you're not being creative. You're not honoring that, and I think you and I talked about 3 months ago, maybe, I kind of had this epiphany that that's all I want to do. Like, everything I do is through that lens right now. Like, is this feeding me creatively? Is this a passion? Do I feel passionate about this? And that is the new lens that everything must pass through to get into my life.
That's the bottom line.
Oh, and it feels so exciting. And it's like, exactly. I just feel like everything's coming into alignment, just honoring that. Right. And again, that self-abandonment is always coming up. So I'm in an incredible stressful period right now, and I can feel the urge to push it away, but I'm so aware of it now because it's feeding me so deeply that, like, as soon as I start to step out of it, it's like, oh no, I want some of that back.
I need to get back to that that good stuff. To see it as for what it is, to see it as nurturing, to see it as cup filling, to see it as restorative, to see it as all these things that we're like, I need it. Like, I actually depend on it.
And talking about the things we were talking about earlier, physically it's all restriction, like everything caving in, and how this feels when you step out of it is all expansive.
Yes.
Right? It feels like everything's opening up again. You can, like, you feel the visceral reactions, even just when we talk about it. Right? I mean, I can see it on you, let alone what you must feel.
I'm like frothing at the mouth. I'm excited.
Well, I've always had this reaction when I get really excited about something. I start shaking. And I can, like, sometimes it's hard to talk because my jaw is quivering. So, like, there's a definite somatic reaction to those two things as well, right? Stepping out of the restriction and into the expansion.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about, like, what's going on in the body when we are really leaning into some of this perfectionism, procrastination, imposter syndrome?
Definitely restriction on every level. So everything's tightening up, the
System-wide.
fascials, the jaw, the stomach muscles, which is causing other things like lack of sleep, hormonal imbalances, kind of what we talked about last episode or the episode before, I think. Just everything is shutting down, not working at its optimal.
Yeah.
And there's a physical contraction, but that's also like an emotional, like it all kind of ties together, right? Everything just starts to shut down and close in on itself. And it's stepping out of those, like when I was talking earlier about just taking the steps forward. Every time I take a step forward, there's an emotional, but there's also a physical release. I can feel myself opening up, right? I can feel...
Yeah, it's like that heart center.
Totally. And the stomach releasing and sleeping better. And, it's just so a whole body experience.
Yeah. I do really also want to bring in the trauma responses that we have talked about in previous episodes, just that fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Those are likely in full display when we are reaching for these behaviors.
Absolutely.
The fight is that overworking, over prepare, control, we're
perfectionism,
really ready for battle. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're in that more, just we're trying to avoid that avoidance or that, what is the procrastinate? It's more of that freeze mode. We're very, we don't even know where to start. We feel distracted. We're avoiding, we're procrastinating. And then the fawn is that overperforming to gain approval. So again, it's that really outward facing, I'm here for others, but I've totally neglected myself in the process, overperforming for approval, or to avoid disappointing someone.
Yeah. And I think the imposter syndrome comes into the fawn too, right? Because for me, hysterically, the imposter syndrome has often led to a shutdown. I can't do it.
It's not sustainable.
No.
It's too yucky.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And it is so cyclical too, right? And that's when we were saying earlier, the three, they're so intertwined, what comes first, what drives the other. You're really just cycling through them, right? So I need to do it perfectly. You feel overwhelmed. So then you're going to avoid it. Then you feel shame and guilt that you haven't done it. Then you question whether you're even capable of doing it. And then, you want to try and prove yourself, but you don't know you can do it perfectly. So you avoid it again. We just circle through it. Right. And that's really where taking that step, just taking a step,
a beat,
is really effective just to shut down the noise.
Yeah.
Right. And each step you get the confidence to take a little more of a step. It doesn't mean none of this disappears for me. It's not happening now. It just doesn't have the same airspace. It doesn't carry the same weight. I can know what it is, feel it.
Name it.
And that's the other thing is somatically is to feel those things when they come up. So not just think about it, but let those feelings of guilt and shame be metabolized and move through you. Right. And realize they're not.
Digest them.
Yeah. And get into, is this true? Is this mine to carry? Who gave me that message? Is that my message to myself, or was I given that by somebody else? Is it true?
Right. You're interrupting the cycle. You're just kind of throwing a wrench in it. Actually, no, we're not going to go through this whole cycle right now. We're going to slow this down and
are you going to let this, are you going to let this continue to debilitate you? Do you want out of it? Or, also there's some people that are happy and it's serving a purpose and they're just going to choose to ruminate in that. Again, not my job to get them out. I can offer the co-regulation. I can reflect what I'm seeing. I can offer wisdom. I can't make someone do it that doesn't, nor is it my job. Yeah. And that's what's burnout. And that's, imagine, like you said earlier, carrying the weight of their outcome as your responsibility.
No wonder you feel overburdened and overwhelmed and totally. Yeah. It's too much.
Yeah.
Well, we have to wrap up this episode, but
yes, we do.
I'm feeling really fired up, and I don't know, I'm just feeling like empowered, and it's really empowering to just be able to name the patterns and to acknowledge, okay, I see you, I see these patterns, and I can feel the desire to move out of them, or transition to, the next iteration of the experience. I think that's something that would be really important for you all to consider, is that, our bodies are taking in a lot of this, our bodies, the Grand Central Station, and we are huge proponents of taking care of our bodies and nurturing our bodies. So asking yourself, can the body learn that being imperfect, uncertain, or visible, that like exposed self, does not automatically mean or equal danger? So can your body learn that being imperfect, uncertain, visible is not automatically dangerous?
And the realization that unsafe and uncomfortable are two very different things.
Yes.
Right? So are you just uncomfortable in the moment, or are you actually unsafe?
Yeah.
Most of the time it's just uncomfortable.
And we've learned that like we associate discomfort with a lack of safety, but there's a real importance to reminding ourselves, our bodies, that I am safe. I can navigate towards safety, and just this increased awareness, this increased self-compassion, these boundaries, those are all safeguards that you can enlist, at any moment.
Yes. And in the last few episodes, we've really wanted to start leaving the audience with a question to reflect on. And you can leave your comments on Spotify or on Instagram. And the question we had was, which part of the cycle do you recognize most in yourself? Perfectionism, procrastination, or imposter syndrome?
Yes.
And what do you think might be underneath it? So when you imagine the pattern relaxing, even just a little, what's the first thing that feels at risk to you?
Yeah. We would love to hear from you. And please, we're always, wanting to engage. So please do not hesitate to reach out. We know you're listening. We see the analytics. And we're just here for you, here for community. So thank you so much for being here. And we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Once again, this is Corey
and Cindy with the People Pleaser Podcast.
Thank you for supporting the podcast. If you liked what you heard, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can find more content from us on Instagram at peoplepleaser.pod. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.